Have you ever wondered what this meaningless anxiety is that gnaws at us, even when no real danger is present? Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, gripped by a fear whose cause you cannot even name? And what if this anxiety is, in fact, the price of freedom? Perhaps that indescribable discomfort that settles within us is trying to tell us something important. You know that strange feeling of emptiness that suddenly emerges amid the hustle and bustle of everyday life. It's as if everything appears to be fine on the surface, yet there is an imperceptible void, a slight, persistent ache in the corner of your heart. This sensation is the existential anxiety, hard to define with words. Many of us live with it deep inside, sometimes without even being aware of its presence. Have you ever asked yourself, why are we constantly anxious? The French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre tried to understand this elusive restlessness. According to him, at the very core of this inner disquiet lies a fundamental truth of being human. Sartre calls this feeling existential anxiety. It isn't fear, the kind you feel when facing a tangible threat. Anxiety, on the other hand, drifts in the void without a clearly defined cause, clinging to you with a subtle heaviness. But why? Sartre argues that the root cause is the immense burden of freedom and responsibility that we bear on our shoulders. You might have heard Sartre's famous proclamation, "Man is condemned to be free." At first, it sounds peculiar. How can being free be a condemnation? What Sartre is emphasizing, however, is that ultimately, we are forced to make our own choices. We do not come into life with a predetermined meaning or path. Whatever we do, or whatever we become, is our own choice. Not choosing is still a choice. In this sense, we are condemned by freedom. Every step we take and every decision we make is uniquely ours. The threads of our destiny lie in our own hands, regardless of any external forces. Pause for a moment and reflect. Who really makes the decisions in your life? Of course, circumstances, society, and the people around us have an influence. But in the end, it's you who says yes or no, who takes that step. This is the freedom that Sartre talks about, the radical responsibility that comes with being free. And this is why freedom is both magnificent and terrifying. The endless possibilities it offers are a tremendous opportunity, yet they also create an unsettling uncertainty. Every choice means relinquishing every other possibility, and we are completely responsible for the consequences of our decisions. Imagine the dizzying prospect of having countless paths open before you. The idea that you can do anything sounds enticing, doesn't it? But then that inescapable question arises. Now, what should I do? At the heart of existential anxiety lies this very question. To know that you can choose everything also means there is no clear direction. You feel like you're drifting in a vast void, with nothing or no one to guide you. And in that space, a disquieting sensation emerges. What if I choose the wrong path? What if my decision turns out to be a mistake? Such questions erode our peace, and anxiety settles in their wake. Sartre believed that this inescapable anxiety is something that every human being carries deep within, because we are ultimately free, and this freedom carries a heavy responsibility. It's as if we are captains of a ship on an endless ocean, forced to chart our own course without a map. Does this freedom scare you? For many, the answer is yes. At times, the weight of freedom becomes so overwhelming that we seek escape. We try to evade that intense anxiety, an anxiety rooted in the very responsibility of being free. But how do we escape from that freedom? Often, we hide behind convenient lies. Sartre calls this self-deception bad faith. Bad faith is essentially a philosophical term for deceiving ourselves, denying our own freedom by clinging to excuses. Perhaps, without even realizing it, you sometimes say, "I have no other choice." Consider someone who remains stuck in a dissatisfying job for years. Every day is a struggle, yet they tell themselves, "I must go. Bills have to be paid. Besides, what else could I possibly do?" In reality, that person might have the capacity to try something new or change their life, but they persist in believing they have no alternative, all to avoid the daunting uncertainty of freedom. Harsh as it sounds, many of our excuses are nothing more than attempts to flee from the truth of our freedom. Another example is how we conform to the roles that society expects of us. "I should behave like this because I'm supposed to be a good mother," or "I must dress a certain way because people will judge me otherwise." In these instances, we prioritize societal expectations over our own desires. We simply cannot be ourselves for fear of rejection or ostracism. In doing so, we deceive ourselves further, as if we have no other way to act. Deep down, we know a different path is possible, but we avoid it for fear of the unknown or of others' disapproval. This too is bad faith, a game we play with ourselves where we deny our inherent freedom. So what is the alternative? Sartre argues that only by embracing an authentic existence can we break free from this vicious cycle. Living authentically means accepting your own freedom and living truthfully with yourself, pursuing what you truly desire without hiding behind excuses. Is it easy? Far from it. To live authentically means to accept the anxiety that sometimes grips you, to acknowledge that you are free and that the path is yours to carve out deliberately. It requires the courage to say, "I am who I am, and I take full responsibility for my choices." This courage might not eliminate anxiety entirely, but it empowers you to move forward despite it. There is an inner peace that can be found in being true to oneself. Now, let's turn to another of Sartre's well-known assertions. Hell is other people. You might have heard this before, and at first glance, it sounds bleak, almost as if it says, people are evil, others turn our lives into a living hell. But what Sartre is really pointing out here is a peculiar aspect of human relationships. Other people, especially their perceptions and judgments of us, can sometimes transform our inner world into a personal hell. Have you ever felt uneasy in a crowded room, as if everyone's eyes are fixed on you? Or noticed that when someone scrutinizes you, you find it impossible to be yourself? This is the kind of hell Sartre is referring to. The gaze of others can reduce us to objects. In someone else's eyes, we might be defined by a single judgment, reduced to a label: successful or failure, good or bad, and we become trapped within that single notion, unable to escape its confines. This is deeply stifling, because we know deep inside that we are multifaceted beings, yet we often cannot resist having others define us narrowly. If we become overly preoccupied with what others think, we end up feeling that our freedom is curtailed. We start living according to external expectations, and eventually, it's as if we are actors on an invisible stage, with every step meticulously controlled by the anticipated approval of the audience. In doing so, we stray further from our true selves. We wear masks to gain acceptance, and the irony is that even while wearing these masks, we remain uneasy because, at the core, we know that the roles we are playing are inauthentic. The outcome? A relentless unease, a disquiet born out of our inability to truly realize ourselves. Again, that familiar state of anxiety re-emerges. In modern times, Sartre's ideas seem more relevant than ever. Consider how social media exposes us constantly to the scrutiny of others. We have become our own broadcasters, photos, posts, shares, all of which are part of an endless quest for validation. When you post a photo on Instagram, you might find yourself anxiously checking the number of likes within seconds. Why? Because seeing the approval of others makes you feel valued. And if you don't get the anticipated engagement, you might feel unworthy. In today's digital age, Sartre's statement, "Hell is other people," takes on a new dimension, living under constant societal judgment, where the question, "What will others say?" haunts us every moment, creating our own personal hell. Moreover, on social media, we tend to filter ourselves. We only share our happiest moments, as if our lives were always picture perfect. Even if our inner feelings differ, we craft an image that we think others want to see. Isn't this a form of bad faith? Instead of living our own truth, we present a facade of what we believe is acceptable to others. And then, our happiness or sadness becomes dependent on whether this false self is validated. Inevitably, a void starts to form in the depths of our souls because our real selves remain hidden, perhaps never revealed at all. And as we continue this charade, that existential anxiety grows where it should have withered away. A fear, what if they really get to know me and cannot accept who I truly am, gnaws at us relentlessly. Let's now consider the issue of freedom and the endless need to choose. Modern life, with its technological advances, offers us unprecedented options. There are countless alternatives in every aspect: what show to watch, what clothes to wear, how to shape your career. While this multitude of choices embodies freedom, it also burdens us with the weight of decision-making. Think about the moment when you want to watch a movie or a series, and you find yourself paralyzed by indecision on Netflix for minutes on end. So many choices that you end up stressing without selecting anything at all. This is but a small example of a phenomenon that extends to every area of our lives. Which career path to pursue, in which city to live, whom to befriend, and what life to build. Gone are the days when traditions or family expectations dictated our choices. In today's era, the mantra is draw your own path. Yes, we are free, but the weight of our choices still presses down on our shoulders. Every decision carries with it the possibility of regret, fueling our anxiety further. When we choose one path, the spectre of the unchosen alternatives often haunts us. How would it have been if I had chosen the other option? We tend to undervalue what we have and yearn for what we do not. Thus, the endless pressure of having to choose, an inevitable byproduct of our freedom, creates a persistent unrest within us. Sartre's constricting freedom becomes, in modern life, all too familiar. The question, "I can do anything, but what should I do?" transforms into an ever-present whisper in the background of our minds. There is also the matter of the search for identity. Have you ever pondered deeply, who am I really? In our contemporary world, people struggle to define themselves because the concept of a fixed identity has given way to ever-changing fluid identities. On one hand, this is a wonderful aspect of freedom. You can define yourself however you wish, live your life in the manner you choose. On the other hand, it creates an uncertainty. Which of these selves is real? Today, you might present one self here and another elsewhere. playing different roles in social media, at work, and at home. In such a fragmented landscape, finding an authentic self becomes increasingly challenging. The result? Anxiety returns. Because when you cannot grasp your true essence, you become restless. The need to belong, to define yourself, becomes essential. And in your search for this affirmation, you may cling to groups, ideologies, or labels. Yet, if these labels do not truly reflect who you are from the inside, they leave you unfulfilled. The void remains. That familiar anxiety resurges, fed by the fear. What if they really see me for who I am? Perhaps the deepest issue of all is the sense of meaninglessness and loneliness that pervades our existence. Sartre asserts that we are thrust into the world without an inherent purpose. The meaning of our lives is not predetermined. We must create it ourselves. In the modern era, many find themselves caught in an existential void. As traditional beliefs weaken and old values crumble, questions like, why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? Echo in our minds. If these questions remain unanswered, a vast emptiness sets in within us. No matter how crowded our surroundings may be, the journey to find meaning is deeply personal. We can feel utterly alone, even amidst a sea of people, for only we can fill that inner void. This sense of loneliness becomes an intrinsic component of existential anxiety. Even if we are surrounded by others, if we cannot discover the meaning of our lives, no one else can shoulder that burden for us. Here, Sartre's assertion, hell is other people, resurfaces in a thought-provoking way. Being with others can seem like a torment, particularly when we have alienated ourselves from our inner world. Modern individuals sometimes feel as if they are rolling through an endless void, wandering in search of meaning without knowing what to grasp. Yet, Sartre reminds us that instead of waiting for meaning to appear, we must actively create it. The meaning of life is born from our actions and the choices we make. This message of freedom, echoing once again, challenges us. Ultimately, the responsibility is ours, and meaning becomes our own creation. It is a notion that is both uplifting and, in its weight, burdensome. Let us return to the question we posed at the very beginning. Why are we constantly anxious? Perhaps the answer is staring us right in the face. It is because we, as humans, are condemned to be free, and freedom is no light burden. Freedom contains within it both immense potential and a profound uncertainty. That uncertainty resonates within us as anxiety. In a sense, our anxiety is the shadow of our freedom, a constant companion as we journey through life. Is this anxiety entirely a negative force? Perhaps not. Consider it from a different perspective. Could anxiety be proof that we are truly alive? After all, if nothing truly mattered, we wouldn't experience such profound concern. That anxiety which stirs our hearts may well be urging us, wake up. What you do, the choices you make, they matter. Seen in this light, anxiety is not so much an enemy as it is a guide. Of course, existential anxiety is not a pleasant feeling. Who, after all, relishes inner turmoil? But ponder this. If we could completely eliminate anxiety, would freedom retain its meaning? Freedom brings with it responsibility. Responsibility often brings anxiety. They are two sides of the same coin. One cannot exist without the other. Perhaps what we must do is not to reject or run from our anxiety, but rather to understand it, to listen to what it is saying. That anxiety tells you your decisions matter, You're in control of your own destiny. Yes, it is a chilling message, yet it is also a powerful call to action. When we hear that message, we have two choices: to cower in fear and continue deceiving ourselves, or to embrace our freedom wholeheartedly. Our hands may tremble and our hearts beat rapidly as we carve out our own paths, but it is then that we truly feel that we are living. Perhaps the most meaningful life is found in the courage to embark on this inner journey. Self-discovery is not an easy path. It is rocky, fraught with thorns, and at times shrouded in darkness. Yet without it, we cannot find our own light. Sartre's philosophy reminds us that the meaning of life does not lie waiting out there to be discovered. It is something we create, and the process of creation may be painful. That pain, that anxiety, can be felt deep within. But what matters is that we do not let it stop us. Facing your anxiety might begin with asking yourself profound questions. What do I truly want from this life? What do I believe in? What kind of person do I aspire to be? These questions may seem simple, yet finding their answers can take a lifetime. Still, the very search for these answers makes life worth living. For the quest to uncover the meaning of your existence is perhaps the most authentic adventure of all. In the end, anxiety does not have to be our enemy. We might view it not as an alarm bell, but rather as a guiding light. If anxiety is present, it means that our inner world has something important to convey. When we heed that message, even if it terrifies us, we take a decisive step towards embracing our freedom. Because at the end of the day, we are free. And with that freedom comes anxiety. And when we accept this truth, we gain the opportunity to transform that anxiety into something positive. Remember this: man is condemned to be free. There is no escaping our freedom. Therefore, it falls upon us to embrace that freedom and decide what to do with it. Your anxiety is but a shadow accompanying you on this journey, a reminder that where there is light, there must also be a shadow. So continue on, even in the presence of that shadow, for in doing so, you may finally discover your own light. And next time you find yourself gripped by inexplicable anxiety, see it as an invitation, a call to embark on an inner journey. Listen to what your heart is whispering. Perhaps it is the sound of your freedom speaking. And never forget, within all that constant anxiety lies the undiscovered self, waiting to be truly known. And maybe the answer to that question is the very first step that will make you who you truly are.